Hello, welcome back to our countdown to Christmas. Today is the 19th of December, almost there guys, and today we've got another video for you, putting some Necron units against one another. Now yesterday's video we were talking about the Nightbringer going up against the Void Dragon, so if you've missed that one, check that one out, it's in the playlist or the top right of your screen. So as for today's video, we've got a unit of 5 Deathmarks going up against one Hexmark Destroyer. So 2 Hyperspace Hunter units going up against one another. And at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you which one I would prefer if I had to make a list around one of these units. Also guys, do not forget the giveaway. All you need to do is be subscribed to the channel, like the video and comment on which of these units you would prefer. Right, so as for today's video, we've got the 5 Deathmarks, that's 75 points, and the Hexmark Destroyer is 65 points, so there is a 10 points difference there. We can't get them exactly perfect, so there is 10 points. We'll have to add that into the advantages later in this video. So both are elite infantry choices. Both are hyperphase hunters. They've got that keyword which relates to a stratagem. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now the only difference here so far in terms of the keywords is the Deathmarks are core and the Hexmark Destroyer isn't core. But let's get on to the stat line. Okay, so a couple of differences right from the off. Starting off with the attacks. Now the attacks is not that important, to be honest with you. Both of these units are shooter units. But 5 Deathmarks equals 5 attacks in total, whereas the Hexmark Destroyer has 4. Who cares about that really? As for the movement, 8-inch movement for the Hexmark Destroyer, only 5-inch for the Deathmarks. And the strength is also different, with the Hexmark being 5 and the Deathmarks being only 4. Again, not that big of a deal. The wounds characteristic is exactly equal, 5 apiece. But overall you've got to score that to the Hexmark Destroyer, mainly for the movement really, moving 8 inches as opposed to 5. Right, so let's mention a common ability that both of these units have, as well as that common stratagem that they've both got as well. Starting off with that common ability, which is the Dimensional Translocation ability, which allows both of these units to deep strike from turn 2 onwards. So both of them got that. Next, let's mention that stratagem that's available to both of these units, which is the Arethic Interception stratagem, which costs you 1 command point. So you're using this in your opponent's reinforcement step when they're bringing in a model or unit from deep strike. So you select a Hyperspace Hunter unit such as the Deathmarks or your Hexmark Destroyer, and they can either be on the battlefield or in strategic reserves. Then you've got 2 bullet points, and you can be doing either of these bullet points. So the first one is if the Hyperspace Hunter unit is in the hyperspace dimension or strategic reserves, set them up anywhere on the battlefield that is within 18 inches of that enemy unit that's just come in, and more than 9 inches away from other enemy models. Or more than 9 inches away from all enemy models, sorry. Then the second bullet point, the Hyperspace Hunter unit can at the end of the phase shoot as if it was your own shooting phase, but you can only target the unit that's just come on from strategic reserves or deep strike. So effectively both of these units can come in as soon as a unit of deep striking horrors come in from the Demons Codex. Those demon horrors come in and yeah, we pulled the stratagem out, bring out our guys, whether it's the Hexmark, whether it's the Deathmarks, and we can shoot as if it was our own shooting phase at that unit. And we don't even have to have our guys on the battlefield at the time we're using it. Pretty cool. Is it pretty cool? I mean, I don't use it that often, to be honest with you. But anyway, that's what they've got. That's something that they both have in common. As for the other abilities that are not in common, so these are unique, starting off with the Hexmark Destroyer. In fact, we have to start with the Hexmark Destroyer because the Deathmarks don't have any unique abilities. But the Hexmark has the multi-threat eliminator. So each destroyed model will give an additional shot with the pistols. We'll talk about the pistols in a moment. They've got the Hardwired for Destruction ability to reroll all hit rolls over 1. And bear in mind they are hitting on 2s naturally anyway, so hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s is pretty good. And Inescapable Death, so you're always hitting on a 2+, even in Overwatch with the Hexmark Destroyer, so the hit rolls cannot be modified, and also your opponent cannot be using the benefits of cover. So that one I think easily is a Hexmark Destroyer win there, because the Deathmarks don't have any other unique abilities. Let's get on to Codex Synergy next, starting with Hexmark Destroyer straight away, going on to relics because it's a character model, don't forget. So there are some relic options that we want to talk about. First one is the Gauntlet of the Conflagrator. So it's a 12-inch pistol with infinite shots if you like. You target a unit and you take 1 dice for every single model within that unit. So if there's 20 models, that's 20 dice. Any rolls of a 6 will inflict a mortal wound. Pretty good. If you're going up against a unit of 20 guys, you're looking at around 3 to 4 on average that will get destroyed or take a mortal wound if you like. The second one I want to mention is the Veil of Darkness relic. Now the reason I'm mentioning this, you're probably thinking that's kind of weird because he's already got the Dimensional Translocation ability, doesn't really need the Veil of Darkness relic as well. But what you could do is deep strike the Hexmark Destroyer in with his Dimensional Translocation ability, but you can also do that with a group of Flayed Ones, for example. They've also got that same ability. Maybe you give the Implacable Conqueror Warlord trait, which is a rerollable charge roll for units within close proximity of your character. And maybe if you're within the Novuk Dynasty perhaps, that's going to be an 8-inch charge, which is rerollable for your Flayed Ones. Once they've done their damage, they've taken out a unit, on your next turn, fail a Darkness Relic, pop to the other side of the battlefield, repeat the process. Other unique synergy for the Hexmark destroyers would be the Destroyer Cult Lord, such as your Scorbit Lord, your Locust Lord. In fact, we did a video on those two guys quite recently, but if you're within close proximity of either of those lords, the Hexmark destroyer is going to get to reroll wound rolls of a 1. Other alternative options, the Canoptic Plasmacite. They're not really useful in terms of getting into melee and getting the extra strength and all that kind of stuff, but for behind enemy lines. If you're selecting the objective behind enemy lines, and if you get 1 unit in your opponent's deployment zone, that's going to be 2 points, but if you get 2 units, you're actually scoring 4 points. So you can take your Hexmark Destroyer with the Deep Strike ability, you take a Canoptic Plasmacite with the Deep Strike ability, that's 2 separate units in your opponent's deployment zone if you can get in there, of course. And what's great about this is your opponent can't actually target the Canoptic Plasmacite at range. If you want to further boost this, you bring out the Frayed Ones as we mentioned a minute ago, and then you're providing that Lookout Sir ability to your Hexmark Destroyer as well. So both of those units aren't going to be targetable, and your Flayed Ones are going to actually be there to kind of shield both of the models. Other options for the Hexmark Destroyer is the new Army of Renown, which is the Annihilation Legion. He can be selected. Now he will be HQ when you select him for the Army of Renown Annihilation Legion. He's not going to be an elite option, and he's also got a unique relic available to him if you put him in that Army of Renown, which is called the Mask of Obliteration. Instead of firing with the 6 disintegrator pistol shots, you put it into 1 single obliteration beam, which becomes Strength 9 minus 3 AP, D3 plus 3 damage. It's a line that goes between the model and the targeted unit, and anything underneath that line gets hit by that beam. Very similar to the Void Dragon's weapon. Now as for the Deathmarks, you're not going to be using the My Will Be Done ability because they already hit on a 2+, but you could use the Necron Lord to be able to reroll hit rolls of a 1. Alternatively, you've got the Triarch Stalker to do the exact same thing, although the problem with that is the Deathmarks can actually target characters. We'll get onto that in a moment as well. But you can't be targeting the character with the Triarch Stalker because that doesn't ignore the Lookout Sir rule. So those kind of things don't quite synergize, but if you were targeting standard units, yeah, it would work just fine. So as for synergy, I think again the Hexmark Destroyer has to win. There's so much more synergy. Even though the Deathmarks have the core keyword, they're just not synergizing as well as they should be because they already hit on the 2+. Right, let's get on to those actual weapons. We've been talking about the weapons quite a few times in this video already. Starting off with the Deathmarks, they've got the Synaptic Disintegrators, which are effectively sniper rifles, 36-inch range, heavy 1, strength 5 minus 2 AP, 1 damage, they ignore the Lookout Sir ability, and any wound of a 6 inflicts a mortal wound. So 5 shots, we're hitting on 2s, we're going in for characters, preferably ones without invulnerable saves, and we're also fishing for 6s to wound to score additional mortal wounds. Approximately you're going to be getting 4.2 hits from your 5 shots, which is on average around 2 to 3 wounds depending on the toughness, toughness 4, toughness 5. You're likely going to get a single wound off with a roll of a 6 to wound, so you'll be doing a couple of damage per shooting phase, but to be honest with you, ideally the Deathmarks need to be in groups of 10 as opposed to 5 if they are character hunting. Doing them in groups of 5, they're just not going to do enough damage over the course of a game, and they're just not going to make their points back. Now, as for the Hexmark Destroyer's Mythic Disintegrator pistols, well, he's got 6 of them. 18-inch range, pistol 1, strength 6, minus 1 AP, 1 damage. So really good against toughness 3, you're wounded on 2s. Now you've got 6 shots, we hit on 2s, but we're re-rolling 1s this time, don't forget, with the Hardwired for Destruction ability. This time we're going for toughness 3 as mentioned, likely infantry models that have got only 1 wound apiece. Also with a low armor save, that would really help. So approximately 5.8 hits from your 6 shots, which comes to about 4.8 wounds. That's obviously pre-armor save, they still get to make their armor save, but likelihood is they've got a low armor save, maybe it's Guardians with a 5+, Orc Boys with a 6+, and then don't forget each time you remove a model, with these pistols you get an additional shot. So again I'll use the example of Guardians, going up against Guardians you're likely going to total around 10 shots, killing around 6 to 7 of them. Now what I would actually in fact do, I'd kind of rewind this a bit, I'd get the Relic Gauntlet of the Conflagrator with this guy and I'd be using that first. Because you get a dice roll for every single model that's in the unit, so you don't want to be removing models before using the gauntlet, you may as well do the gauntlet first. Remove around 3 or 4 models from a 20-man blob, then take your pistol shots to remove around 6 or 7 of them, so you could be totaling roughly around 10 dead models in that given shooting phase, which is definitely going to force a morale check if they don't automatically pass. And what's even better is if it's a melee based unit, they're going to try and charge your Hexmark Destroyer, and guess what? Overwatch 2+. We're going to repeat the process all again, take around another 10 more models off the board, and by the time they got into combat, they're not going to be doing that much. Right, let's get on to the general purposes for both of these models, starting off with the Deathmarks. Character assassination of course. Better on characters without invuln saves like the Technomancers, Apothecaries, Painboys. Anything without an invuln save, that -2 AP is going to really do some damage. Also useful for an anti-deep strike to minimise an incoming target. These guys are virtually immortals if you're shooting at non-character models. They've got the exact same profile except it's heavy 1, but they're hitting on 2s anyway, so it kind of makes no difference. But it is like a Gauss Blaster, strength 5, -2 AP, 1 damage. In fact, they are slightly cheaper than the immortals, only by 1 point, but something to consider. As for the Hexmark Destroyer, they've also got the anti-deep strike facility with that stratagem. They're better versus toughness 3, especially ones with a low armor save. And a one-man Hexmark Destroyer model can do a job against even the biggest units that are toughness 3. Also useful for some secondaries like behind enemy lines with the plasma sight as mentioned, and also very useful with things such as flayed ones, with some relics and warlord traits involved with that synergy. Right, so let's get on to the summary of today's video. We're going to go with the Deathmarks first. Advantages are, so they're a core unit, so they're going to interact with anything that's got the core keyword. To be honest, they're hitting on a 2+ anyway, so not much will interact with them, but a few things still will, such as the Lord's Will from the Necron Lord. They've got the better range of 36 inches, definitely got a better range than the Hexmark Destroyer's 18 inches. They've got 5 combined attacks, yeah, okay, it's still an advantage I guess. They're ignoring the Lookout Sir ability. They're scoring mortal wounds on a 6+ to wound. Obviously that doubles down with the ignoring the Lookout Sir ability, so you can be planting those mortal wounds on characters. They're slightly better in terms of AP, they've got -2 AP, not -1. They can be better used in a unit of 10 of them. Now this video is for a unit of 5 of them, but you do have the option of getting up to a 10-man unit. And finally, they can make use of reanimation protocols. Disadvantages, well, they're 10 points more than taking a Hexmark Destroyer if you take 5 Deathmarks. Secondly, they've got less shots, only got 5 shots. The Hexmark Destroyers have 6. Their weapons are heavy, so if they do move, it's going to be a -1 hit penalty, so they'll be hitting on a 3+. They've got no rerolls without any buffs, whereas the Hexmark Destroyer does reroll 1s. They've only got a 5-inch movement, not an 8-inch. Only strength 4 in melee, again, not that big of a deal. And finally, non-characters, so therefore they can't take any relics or any warlord traits, whereas the Hexmark Destroyer can. As for the Hexmark Destroyer, there's quite a lot of advantages here that I've found for you. So first of all, the 10 points cheaper, 8-inch movement, they've got the strength 5, not a big deal, but we're going to put it. More shots with 6 as opposed to 5. They're firing into combat with their pistols, don't forget that one. That one's an easy one to forget. They're hitting on a 2+ even in Overwatch. They can use the Lookout Sir ability when there's other units around, because of course this is a character model. They've got the synergy with Destroy Cult Lord, so your Scorbut Lord, your Locust Lord, to be able to reroll wound rolls of a 1. The Plasma Sight option with behind enemy lines is a good secondary option. The option of Annihilation Legion as their Army of Renown. Options of Relics and Warlord traits, and finally the Living Metal ability. Quite a lot there for the Hexmark Destroyer. As for the disadvantages, I've got a few for you. Gives up assassination points because they are a character model. They've got no reanimation protocols. Versus a lot of factions, I think they're pretty useless, especially those ones with Armour of Contempt. I've already mentioned that in the bottom one, in fact. Anything that's got power armour, that AP goes to 0. You're not going to be removing models, so therefore you're not going to get extra shots. And only 1 damage each time. Yeah, against a lot of factions, these are not that great. And finally, the less range of 18 inches as opposed to 36. So at the start of this video, I thought I was going to be selecting one of these units, and while creating this video, I've actually changed my mind. So I was going to be selecting the Deathmarks today, but I'm actually going to be selecting the Hexmark Destroyer. There's a lot more synergy, a lot more versatility. They can be scoring you points in all different ways. Whereas the Deathmark, okay, they can be considered immortals if you like, but if they can't get through to a character model, then yeah, they're not really there for any other purpose other than doing that job. So for me, I'm going to be going with the Hexmark Destroyer. So right guys, that is the end of the video. Remember to like, comment and subscribe to get in with a chance of winning that box set. All that's left to say is thank you all for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.